Hello everyone, welcome to Pharma now. So today's episode is going to be your most exciting episode, I'm sure for that. So because today we are going to learn about something very innovative and which is very close to my heart. It's about software. Yeah. So in drug discovery, speed isn't just about efficiency. It's about lives. Yet most research teams still juggle hundreds of experiments with spreadsheets, email chains, and silos database. So imagine trying to manage an incredible complex scientific workflow across the global research teams with such a disconnected systems. It's terrible, right? That's how R&D has operated for decades, and I think still it is going on. But one leader, after years inside pharma giants like AstraZeneca, GSK, Amgen, decided there had to be a better way. I think most of us think about that, there had to be a better way, but I think very few people take action. But he left the comfort of big pharma to reimagine how science collaborates. The result? A platform called iTraX, built by a scientist for scientists. I am thrilled to welcome Dr. Paul, a CEO and co-founder of Elixir Software, on today's episode of Pharma Now. So, Paul, it's such a great pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to share the journey.
Yes. So, how are you doing, Paul?
Yeah, I'm doing very well, despite being 7 o'clock in the morning UK time.
Yeah, I think you are early riser, right?
Yeah, I am.
I heard a lot about your fitness stories.
Oh, did you? They've made it to India, have they?
Yes, certainly. I think I saw a couple of posts on your Instagram about your fitness.
Ah,
It's
okay.
amazing.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to
Right.
come back to that part for sure.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, you ask away.
Perfect. So Paul, are you ready for this podcast?
Of course. Yeah, I'm excited. Let's
Oh,
go.
wonderful. So Paul, I think you had an incredible career with over a decade's research experience in some of the world's top pharma companies, right? So I wanted to understand more about that journey, how that journey was.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I worked as a research scientist for AstraZeneca, GSK, Amgen, like you've said, a couple of smaller biotechs, which I'll mention later on. Working alongside some of the greatest scientists in the world, and it was a privilege. It was an amazing opportunity. Um, what struck me wherever I worked was how much of the scientific brilliance was being wasted, essentially. And the reason for that is as research teams, we were spending hours using spreadsheets, PowerPoints, updating each other through emails, preparing for meetings, and all of that time was not being spent on the actual science that could eventually help the patients. Okay, so it was a
Right,
real pain point, real frustration.
right.
Um, and there's one story that sticks with me, and I was working on this project, cancer project,
Correct.
and we'd sent some compounds, so we designed some compounds, and we sent them to a CRO in China for synthesis. But because of the nature of how research works, we had some more data come in after we'd
Right.
sent those compounds. And when we analyzed the data, it basically said, look, the designs you've just sent over to the CRO, they're not longer relevant and they're not going to work. So I thought, right, okay, we've got finite resource on this project. Okay, we need to make the most of it. So I went to see the medicinal chemist who was in
Hmm.
charge, and I said, can we ask them to stop the work?
Correct.
Um, and his reply was, it's too much effort. Too much effort. Let's just let them finish, and we'll put the compounds in the inventory for the next screen. Okay. And I was just thinking, wow, this is tens of thousands of dollars,
Hmm.
months of work, and we're knowingly making something that just wasn't needed, simply because the systems didn't allow us to adapt quickly enough. Okay,
Hmm. Okay.
so that was the breaking point for me. Well, one of the breaking points, and I realized it wasn't the science that was failing; it was the tools. And I thought, if
Hmm.
we could fix the way teams work together,
Right.
Imagine how much faster we could get therapies to patients. And ultimately, that's what this is all about, right?
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. So that's where I think you and Dr. Martin co-founded the Elixir together, right?
That's
So
correct.
what
Yeah.
what made you decide to make that leap to build a software solution and and take a step like starting your own business? Like it's a quite a change from your previous role.
Yeah, it is quite right. Well, first of all, Martin is a co-founder. He's a very good friend as well. But we call him Mart, not
Oh,
Martin, because
really?
Elixir. Well, Elixir is all about saving time, so we thought we'd shorten his name. So everyone knows him as Mart in the business. Um, yeah, but Mart and I we go way back. He actually trained me in my first job,
Okay,
a company
okay,
called Protherix, and that's in Macclesfield in northwest England. Small biotech. Later became part of Amgen, and when I joined, we very quickly became friends. And
okay.
even back then, we had this real kind of entrepreneurial streak. Okay,
Right.
so the way we'd work together is I would I would be working as a computational chemist,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd often come up with some harebrained idea for how we could make something simpler, more efficient. For instance, if you're doing a virtual screen analysis, you're looking through hundreds of thousands of compounds that are randomly selected, and it was just a very time-consuming job.
Correct.
But Mark, he was a developer, he was a coder as well as a scientist,
Okay.
and I'd come up with this idea and say, look, I think this is going to make this more efficient, save some time. And he'd
Mm-hmm.
go, yeah, okay. What about if we do it like this? Yeah, great. So there's a real collaborative sort of spirit with me and Martin. And then once we agreed between us what would be a good solution, he'd just go
Mm-hmm.
away and code it. Week later, bring the code back. We'd go through some testing. Is it doing what we actually want it to do? And then before long, the whole computational chemistry team was using it. That was 20 years ago, right? So
Oh,
it,
okay.
but he planted a seed um, for how we continue to work together, looking at problems and trying to find solutions. So we'd really got this kind of problem solution relationship
Okay.
embedded over a period of time.
Okay.
So then, if you fast forward to our time in Big Pharma, because Martin and I both left that company, I went to GlaxoSmithKline, Martin went to AstraZeneca. So we were in Big Pharma, and the same frustrations kept cropping up,
Mm-hmm.
but on a much larger scale, naturally, because there's more people, there's more departments involved. And what we noticed is that the science was being slowed down because people were spending all this time preparing slides for meetings
Correct.
rather than actually doing the experiments. Yeah.
True that.
Um, and then it got worse because you've got this large sort of business structure in pharmaceutical companies, and the communication from the scientists in the laboratory, but at the bench up to project leaders and departmental heads even, was fragmented. So you have your leaders who couldn't actually see what was happening in real time in their department,
Correct.
and the scientists themselves couldn't adapt quickly enough when new data came in, as I said with regards to the CRO story that I told before.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the way the opportunity arose because Martin in AstraZeneca, so I eventually joined Martin in AstraZeneca after GSK, so we were reunited, which was a good thing.
Okay.
Um, and he'd already built a really sophisticated chemistry tracking system, and that solved internal issues. It brought teams together. I think it was about 400 or 500 people using it by the time it finished it. So it really did make
Okay.
an impact there. But it solved an internal tracking problem, okay,
Okay.
as to
Okay.
where things were in real time. But it didn't help me because I was working in partnerships. So one of my main partnerships was Cancer Research UK. And the relationship with Cancer Research UK is we'd meet every couple of months just to say,
Okay.
right, what have you done? What have we done? Are we progressing the project, albeit at a distance? And more often than not, we sat down, shared our slides, and said, "Hang on a minute, we've both designed and made the same compounds here without knowing it because of that separation, that lack of communication."
Correct.
You know,
Correct.
once every 2 months, that's not enough, right? And it was that duplication of effort that was really, really frustrating.
I agree.
So at that point, I was kind of thinking, you know, going back 20 years, even then, Martin and I were talking about setting up our own business, and I just thought, look, it's all about finding an opportunity. Yeah,
Correct.
you can. My kind of thinking on this is we have Dragon's Den in the UK. I don't know whether you have that in India, and it's basically people are pitching their ideas to a panel of entrepreneurs who've got a lot of money, and if they're successful, they get an investor on board. And a lot of people watch that thinking, that's going to
Yeah.
inspire me to start a business. But that's not how it works. And every business
Correct.
leader I know, unless you're very lucky, they actually discover opportunities whilst they're working for somebody else where there aren't solutions. So coming back to, you know, the sort of start, why did we do it? We wanted to run a business together. And I kind of said, look, if a wealthy pharmaceutical company is relying on spreadsheets and emails and PowerPoints to run
Correct.
multi-million-dollar projects,
Right.
when they could literally afford any software on the market, okay?
Right.
But they didn't buy it because it wasn't there. So that told me there was a gap in the market.
Correct.
But I am a scientist by nature, by training, right? So I had to confirm it. So I had to do a little bit of market research. And the way I did that was I built a big network at AstraZeneca. And I went to all those different laboratories and I said, look, how do you
Correct.
do this? How do you track things? And they said, PowerPoint, spreadsheets, emails. And I was just like, right, okay. So we actually showed them a proof of concept of what we could do,
Correct.
and said, you know, would that help you? And it was like, can we have it now? So
Correct.
it was a really positive kind of feedback. So I knew at that point we were on to something potentially groundbreaking, but you have
Right.
to you have to be cautious because that's one company, right? So that might be just one company. But I'd seen the same behavior in all the other companies that I've worked at. So
Correct.
it was very clear to me that it wasn't unique to just chemistry that Martin had got a solution for, or one company. It was just everywhere. This was a human problem. Okay.
Correct.
And that's when it clicked. And that was the vision that led to Elixir.
Amazing, amazing. Paul, I think it's a very inspiring story, and I can certainly echo with what you said because I have went through the similar journey. And being an engineer, I can certainly see a sense that when you see a mundane task done on the spreadsheets, you really think about okay, why can't it be done automatically, and why can't we have some automation there? I certainly agree with that. But I think saying that, I think let's also think from the outside of pharma industry, right? So what makes these R&D operations complex compared to the other industry? So for my other audience, I think if you can help me to understand the scale issue and actual solution what you are coming up with, so that would be really great.
Okay, sure, yeah. I think you're absolutely right. You know, it does kind of transcend across industries, but we're focusing on pharmaceuticals because that's what we understand. But to explain the complexity of R&D, you know, I'll just give you a little bit of a overview of how certainly the research and early development works. And you know, drug discovery itself is built around what we would call the DMTA cycle. Okay, so
Okay.
you design something, you make that
Okay.
design in the
Okay.
laboratory, you then test it,
Correct.
and you then get your data, analyze the results, and then you make a judgment as to whether your design hypothesis was good or bad. So which of your KPIs on that particular series are
Correct.
giving you progress towards fixing a problem or taking things back? And
Correct.
it
Got it.
and it repeats over and over. Okay, so you've
Okay.
got this cycle that just you can't because you can design something that that fixes one problem and another problem that you'd already fixed, it destroys that one. So it's a really complicated system.
Got it.
And it doesn't, that DMTA cycle, it doesn't matter what modality, what type of compound, drug that you're making. I worked on small molecules, but these days the industry's expanding to peptides, large molecules, etc., biologics. But it exists in early discovery all the way through to development. But each loop basically is generating learning that feeds into the next cycle. But it is the challenge. So the odds of success in discovery completely stacks against you. All right. So I was chatting recently. I went to see one of my major pharma clients, and I was sat down having a chat, and I learned that only 15% of discovery programs actually make it into the clinic. Right. So you think about that for a minute. That's 85% of effort that is failed, right? And if you look at the cost of drugs, right, you're paying partly to backfill what you've wasted in failing. And it's not that the scientists are no good. It's just not everything fits together. And it's a natural thing in pharmaceutical companies. So that 15% is pretty low. So, to get a drug to market as well, to the patients, the people that matter, it can take anywhere from 10 to 15 years and billions in investment. So it's a real big investment for these companies. They've got to get that 15% and ideally higher onto the market, and got to get it on there fast. So think about the complexity of R&D. When I worked there, in absence of having iTraX embedded, I like to think of it as an orchestra. All right. So bear with me. So you've got these world-class musicians, they're the scientists, right? World-class. They know their science inside and out. So they're each playing their instrument brilliantly. So that's fine. That's great. So that's the chemists, the biologists, the analytical teams, whoever supports that DMTA cycle. But you're running hundreds of experiments in parallel, right? And you're running them across multiple teams, sites, often different continents. But for an orchestra, right, without a conductor, all you're making is noise, right? You're not making music. And that's the way I like to think of it. You've got these really skilled things, but skilled people, but if you don't coordinate it's just noise. And that's basically where science can grind to a halt. It's not because people aren't good at the jobs. They are very good at the jobs, believe me. But it's the tools that bring it all together. They're just not there.
Yeah, I think Paul, that was a very apt example, I must say. So orchestra, it's really really apt here and very relevant. So I think that's where iTraX comes in, right? So please help me to understand how does this platform solve this problem, and basically solves the frustration of scientists compared to the legacy way of working. So let's understand more about the orchestra.
The orchestra, right? Okay, let's delve into the orchestra. Yeah. Well, initially, as we were scientists previously, what we wanted to do with iTraX was to create something that didn't feel just like another system. Okay, that scientists had to tolerate. There's nothing worse than introducing a new piece of software to a scientist. That more often than not, it's a frown. It's another thing to learn. What we wanted to create was something that would be a familiar place to them, right? That they could work in every day. Something that basically felt comfortable, user-friendly, not difficult to use, just a very familiar environment. So to describe iTraX as a product, it's a visual cloud-based platform. Okay. We have Kanban boards, we have calendars for scheduling, we have spreadsheets, we've got all sorts of different functionalities. Some departments, they like to work on Kanban, others prefer the spreadsheet view, others need to do scheduling and all the rest of it. So it's quite a flexible product, and we've built it from the ground up to be flexible for all these different processes. So as an example, you know, in chemistry, it allows you to track compounds from design through synthesis, including with CROs. It integrates with design tools. It integrates with live design from Schrodinger. Okay. And if you include CROs, it's a standard resourcing model in any pharma and biotech drug discovery program. They're designing them, synthesizing them, and all the rest of it. And the smaller companies, as well as the larger companies, do use CROs. Okay, so you've got that external partner. We have iTraX in analytical chemistry as well, and that's basically streamlining test requests. So if you think about the designing of the compounds, so you've got the hypothesis there, you design compounds against a hypothesis, and then a synthetic chemist will make it. But at that point, before you can test it, synthetic chemist has to say, well, have I made the right thing? Have I made the right purity? Have I made the right amount? So at that point, they're kind of leaving iTraX for chemistry and submitting from that solution to the analytical chemistry teams and saying, I need a NMR experiment, I need mass spec, fill in a form, bang, it goes down to those teams, and they have iTraX. So that the benefit of that is there's no more lost samples. And it brings a submission standardization across all those techniques. So you're kind of formalizing how people work rather than this random sort of send an email, can you put this compound through, you know, this particular test? Like the analytical chemists in this particular example are like, well, I don't know what's coming down the line. I have to be reactive rather than proactive and triage things. Now they can do that. Study management's another one. You know, that it brings everyone together on a shared timeline. You can see updates, milestones, what's happening across teams and constants, basically in real time. And that's the thing that you have to remember. It's real time. So I give you a sense of scale, right? And this is in the study management and scheduling side. So one of our major clients, in 1 year, they ran more than 300,000 tasks.
Oh, wow.
Through iTraX, the scheduling calendar in a single year, right? But that was across 7 sites, 3 countries, and 400 scientists.
Wow.
So just imagine for a minute trying to coordinate that in Excel, right? It'd be chaos.
It would be, certainly. I cannot imagine also.
That's how they used to work, though.
Yeah, I run a team of around 150 people, and I'm sure I cannot run Excel or Sheets kind of stuff among 5 or 6 people as well. They create a chaos there. So I can certainly understand about 300,000 tasks, 400 scientists, and 3 countries. It's amazing.
It's unreal. Yeah,
absolutely, it's unreal. And I certainly agree with you about the user experience part. It is so important. I very much agree with that. So while talking to a few of the large pharma companies in various areas, I came to know a few of them are already using iTraX. So I really wanted to know, like, if you can share a story how R&D team's day-to-day life changed with the iTraX. I can certainly understand about the scale, but I really wanted to know more about it, how it changed the life of R&D scientist.
Yeah, on the ground, essentially, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean the impact of using iTraX is very real, right? And it's across all our customers. They report very clear ROIs, return on investments, in terms of TEs, so full-time equivalents. That essentially refers to an employee, and the amount of time that's saved as well. So it's across the board. We get a lot of feedback as to how it's improving their day-to-day life, the efficiency, time savings, etc. But there is thinking about it. There's one standout quotation I'll always remember. One of our US clients told us, and I'm trying to remember exactly what they said, but it was like, without iTraX coordinating medicinal chemistry across our CROs would have been unthinkable. And, you know, it was a short reference, but if you look at the words used, are very impactful, right?
Yeah,
And that's when you know, when you hear something like that, that's when you know you've built something. It's not just software, right? It's part of the fabric of how science gets done.
correct. That's a very powerful statement, I must say. It's a powerful testimony for you. Congratulations for that, Paul.
Thank you.
So, what I like is it's not about features, but it's about the direct impact it delivers, right? So, why do you think scientists resonate so strongly with iTraX compared to the generic tools, of course?
Yeah, that's good questions. I mean, if you, I mean, as a scientist myself, you know, if you're at university, for instance, right, and you've done your PhD or your master's or whatever, and you get offered a job, so you love your science, you get offered a job in major pharma or big biotech, whatever, and you think, wow, it's amazing. I'm going to be working on all these drugs. It's going to be fantastic. I'm going to, you know, change people's lives. Um, so that they don't get up in the morning excited about creating reports or chasing updates, because that's the reality. They join the thing. They do not have 100% of their time on science. They spend a lot of time updating people, and it's very important that they do
Yeah.
that, but people don't necessarily realize it when they join. So they want to do science, and for them, it's certainly for me, getting up in the morning and driving to work on these medicines, it was like a badge of honor, right? It was a real pride thing, because you'd be thinking all the time. I mean, as a computational chemist, I was working with 3D models and all that, and I was thinking, oh, what if I make this change at this position on this benzene ring and just reach out and try to make hydrogen bond, improve the potency, or all the rest of it. And you get to work and you think, this might be the design that actually makes it through to the clinic. So people are really, really excited for the science. It's a badge of honor. So
Hmm.
communication is critical, but the frustration comes when the only way to keep people aligned is through these endless slide decks and meeting preparation, searching through email chains for that information. That's not why any of us went into this field. All right.
All right.
So coming back to your question, what scientists tell us they love about iTraX is it takes all of that away, right? All that kind of disconnected systems. So it
Correct.
becomes a single source of truth, right?
Okay.
So firstly, it's live. Okay, so it's a live update. Everything's up to date, and the relevant information is being shared with both internal teams, and remember we talked about the external partners, and that's not just
Mm,
CROs, but the likes of Cancer Research for UK, where you might be doing a joint project together.
correct.
Right, so it brings everyone together on a single system. So
Mm,
instead of days sort of preparing slides for the next meeting, which is what I was doing and lots of other people were doing, they just simply go to the meeting, fire up iTraX, and they can see exactly what's going on. So that is the up-to-date slide.
true.
That is the
True.
status of that laboratory, right? And you've got people in the meeting, and you can set actions in the meeting live with iTraX. People then leave the meeting. They know what they're doing because they've just had things high priority, low priority, live in there. They go back and they continue to do their science, and it remains up to date. Right, so it removes the need for all these meeting preparations.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you know, it filter on what matters, what make prioritization decisions on the spot, and they know exactly what's happening between meetings is the takeaway message there. But the generic tools, they don't cut it, right? If you use an Excel spreadsheet
Correct.
in a meeting, everyone knows what they're doing. Great, off they go and do it. But that spreadsheet's static. They're not updating the spreadsheet in between meetings. So this system, it's live, it's comfortable to use. It brings everyone into the same ecosystem.
Okay.
I remember as well, there was a study manager who actually said, this is another powerful statement. He said, I actually refuse to manage studies without iTraX. And
Oh, really?
yeah, and for me that really says it all. It's not about features. You said this
Yeah.
before. It's not about features. It's about trust. All right. And scientists feel that they can rely on it. And
Yeah.
the ultimate thing is, because of all the, you don't need these, create these PowerPoints, etc. It gives them back their time to focus on science, on the research that matters. And that is why they came into the industry in the first place, not to spend time doing administration.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a very different point of view, Paul. It's really amazing to know about your tool, the tool which you have built. But can you paint a picture of what real-time visibility would look like in practice for a pharma R&D team?
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, the way
Yeah.
I think about it is time. And I keep going back to this time thing. So what is the most precious currency in the world? If you ask that question, a lot of people think of, gold or this, that, and the other, but it's time. Time is the most precious currency, and the
Mm.
reason for it, you can spend it, you can waste
Yeah.
it, but you can't create it.
Yeah, to
So
that.
so those three things make that a very distinctive and precious currency.
Correct.
So the clock keeps ticking, doesn't it? Right.
Yes.
So the only thing we can do is be more efficient. So rather than
Mhm.
wasting time, we put systems in place that say, well, what is it that you're doing that's taking you away from the science? Right? We know what you're doing, so let's make you more efficient,
Mm.
and that's really where iTraX comes in. Um, so yeah, as I've mentioned, you've got these real-time updates. Everyone can see progress as it happens, and if the kind of real-time reactive part of or either of iTraX, let's say a scientist or an instrument is overloaded, right? You can spot it instantly.
Okay.
And then you can reassign the task that's been assigned to that instrument or the scientist to someone or something with capacity. For instance, as well, if someone's off sick or leaves the organization, your handovers are seamless because the system holds the full context of what's going on in the laboratory. So there's no, someone's off sick, right, get on the phone, dig through some emails, find out what they were doing. Or if someone's lost, I was sat in a meeting once in AstraZeneca, a design meeting, and there was a really, really knowledgeable person. And
Hmm.
there was a new project, and we discovered 3 series that we were going to work on. All right. And
Okay.
we were like,
Okay.
okay, we can synthesize them. It's great. The properties look good. We've got some near neighbors in the collection. And this guy, he was very close to his time and said, do not go near that one and do not go near that one. Why? Because I spent 3 years of my life working on it and it never went anywhere. So
Okay.
think about that for a minute. If he leaves that organization, if he was not in that meeting, he takes his knowledge with him. With iTraX, it's in the system. That knowledge is captured in the system.
Yeah,
You can
I
mine
agree.
it. All right. So it's the same with CROs as well. So instead of firing off emails to ask, where's that compound? Remember my story earlier as we started, you can see exactly what they're working on because you assign tickets to them. They get an alert and then they do the work and they move the. You don't need to ring them.
Correct.
What we would have done is reassign the priority of that ticket and send them a
Mm.
message, an alert, and say, stop, now go on to this.
Correct.
Okay. So, you know, there's no firing off emails. Where's that compound? You see exactly what they're working on. Progress is up to date. Change priorities on the fly. And as soon as you update iTraX, you get notified on what matters most to your project right now, not what mattered last week. Remember, with my updated designs, it's like this doesn't matter anymore. Um,
Absolutely. So I think I,
so
I I
yeah,
certainly agree, Paul, about this because for a pharma, it's not just about discovering the drugs. It's about saving lives. We are talking
mm,
about human lives, and I think we experienced this lot during the COVID period. We were running short on time, and we wanted to have a so coordinated efforts that we can come up with the discovery very faster. I think COVID has taught us a lot in that way. So Paul, I think I remember I was speaking to North US based one of the R&D manager who basically used iTraX. Yeah, and who said iTraX has helped him saving around $500,000. $500,000. So I really wanted to know more also about it because that must be a gratifying feedback.
Absolutely, yeah. And that was a small team as well, right? That
Hmm.
wasn't a big team, that was a small team, so that's quite a big saving. But to continue that analogy I had with the orchestra, yeah, that's music to our ears, yeah, is that how I would put it. And it reinforces exactly why we do what we do. There was also a US project manager that springs to mind, who quoted to me that, iTraX has helped them cut weeks of reporting cycles simply because for the first time everyone could see the same truth, right?
Yeah,
They
yeah,
abandoned all this. Most of the meetings, it doesn't replace meetings, it just makes them more efficient. You still need that human interaction, but that's what visibility means, right? So it's clarity, efficiency, giving scientists back the one currency that they can never get more of, and that's time.
I agree. And I think I can correlate here. Time is money. So you are
It
saving time
is,
and you are saving money. Yeah.
yeah, you're saving. There's a lot of different personas in this industry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The patients get things quicker, the scientists
No,
save money, they get to do more science. But yeah, you're absolutely right.
true, true, Paul. So what's fascinating me, Paul, is that iTrax is, I don't think it's just about the workflows, but it's also about the managing the bigger operational picture within the R&D. You required a really high level picture, and I think managing that within the R&D is one, I think, very important feature, I feel. What say?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Yeah. I mean, with iTrax, I think we sort of can break it up into four operational pillars. So you have your resources, all right? So visualization and management of who's doing what, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
really important. Which equipment, which laboratory internally, but also outsourcing to allow secure and private data sharing with CROs and partners, right?
Yeah,
So who's doing what and what are the priorities? Then you've got the processes, right? So being able to map an entire scientific workflows visually so nothing falls through the cracks and automate as much as possible, which
correct.
is where we're going in the future, to optimize that. Then you have your data, all right? That should be captured centrally. It needs to be trackable. You need to be able to export it. And once you export it, you can analyze it and make better decisions, all
Mm-hmm.
right? And measure the performance because then you can see the bottlenecks in your process. So
Correct.
there are a lot of processes in R&D. They're less defined in discovery, but as you move to development, they become very, very strict. So
Mm,
for us, embedded eye tracks in the pharma industry, we see processes all the time.
correct.
Um, so, finally, you're basically running efficient laboratory operations. So being able to
Mm.
monitor those activities, equipment status in real time, and basically that reduces delays and minimizes equipment downtime.
Correct, correct. So if I summarize it, I think we're talking about four pillars here. I think resources you said processes, data, and I think operations, lab operations. Am I correct?
Yeah, operations and resources. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
that
Yeah.
that's wonderful to summarize. So iTrax isn't just supporting the science. I think in my view, it also helping pharma leaders run business inside or side of the R&D more effectively. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. I mean, science itself doesn't happen in a vacuum. All right.
Yeah,
There
true
is
that.
a whole business
Yeah,
around it, and unless you manage that well, research slows down. Okay, so everybody in this ecosystem has to benefit from this.
true that.
So a lot of our customers use iTrax not only to manage, say, chemistry workflows, but also to coordinate across multiple CROs, as I
Hmm.
mentioned, run their entire lab operations in one place. So, for them, iTrax is no longer just a piece of software. It's become part of their operating system, right? I
Okay.
like to refer it as an operating system as a
Yeah, OS.
company. Yeah. So what I always say is, there's something in iTrax for everyone.
Hmm.
For the bench scientist, all right, the people doing the actual experiments, what they need to know is exactly what they need to do and when and where. All right. So for that example I gave you for the 300,000 tasks, those bench scientists were doing 300,000 operations. They
Correct.
needed to know what they're doing today and where. All right.
Correct.
So it's very important for them. But that's what they get out of it. But whilst they're doing that, they're building a repository of data within iTraX. So then you have your managers, right, who are running part of the operation. What they need to know is what's happening in their programs so that they can keep it on track, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because of the data and the visibility in the real time, they can sit back and look at a dashboard and see it. They don't have to go and ask. As soon as you
True
ask
that.
a question of a scientist, they stop work.
Correct.
So it stops them interrupting them. And then you go a level higher, departmental heads, all right? What they need is not just visibility across one project, they've got a whole portfolio to
Yes.
manage.
Yes.
So that they need the data to go up to them because they've got different decisions to make.
True that.
All right. So senior management basically need an ability to filter all that data, all those metrics, generate KPIs in real time. And what they
Correct.
do then is figure out where the bottlenecks are. Right? So if you can, so everything's time stamped in iTrax. So things are
Yes.
running through a process. A
Okay.
lot of metadata is associated with it, but you can pin down a step in that process that takes longer than it should. And then
Mm-hmm.
you can ask why. And that question might be, we don't have enough machines. We don't
Yeah.
have enough people skilled in that particular step. All right. Well, that is evidence for you to create a business proposal, right? A
Mm.
proposition to senior people to say, if you give me this amount of resource, I'll fix that bottleneck and I'll get higher throughput for you. So this information is going from the ground all the way up. All right.
Correct.
So it's allowing them to forecast those resources, build the business cases, as I've said, and ultimately they've got a stronger case for getting additional investment.
Mm-hmm.
And overall, you're streamlining the operation. So you're streamlining business by using iTraX in R&D.
Wonderful.
So in iTraX, all that's possible, and the senior leaders, what we're starting to see, because the more you use it, the more data you get, the more useful it is. So what they're doing is we link iTraX now to software like Power BI, right? And
Okay.
they
Okay.
have teams now who create dashboards that consumes all the iTraX data, and they get the metrics that they can filter on and say, well, what's our performance in Q1 of this year? How many in vivo experiments did we run in oncology? They can mine it as much as they can. So yeah, before I tried that level of visibility just wasn't possible. But now they can
Agreed.
see exactly what's being done, who, when, over time. And as I've said, forecasting and resourcing. But it is a serious operational tool that basically helps everybody all the way up the chain. But without capturing the data in the first place, you'd never see the trends, would you? You have to have the data,
True that.
or be able to generate the report. So that it's real power at your fingertips. I
Agreed.
remember going back to that example I told you about the 300,000 tasks. I actually met with the global head of that department, the global head, and I sat down and had a coffee with her. And she was overseeing those 7 sites across 3 countries.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And she said to me, for the first time, she had full visibility, and she was very happy about it.
Wow. Congratulations, Paul, for that. That's really amazing. And I feel that it's a world driven by data nowadays. So when you have analytics in front of you, your decision making happens very fast and more relevant decision making. So I think the iTrax provides that visibility, and I think that is reflecting from the customer's testimonial for sure. So
Yeah.
great, Paul.
Yeah.
I think it was wonderful to know about iTrax, what it has done or it is doing. So let's talk more about your vision now. So about iTrax, what do you think? Where do you see iTrax going in next 5 years?
Yeah. I love that question. I was actually asked this recently. I went to one of our major pharma clients and I sat down, had a drink with them, and just had a catch up. And he asked me the same question, right? But his question was 10 years, not 5, but it'll still be the same answer. So I basically I told him a story. So I'll tell you this story. So in my family, right, we have 4 generations connected to what eventually became AstraZeneca as a company. So my great grandfather helped lay the foundations of the ICI site in North Manchester, a place called
really?
Blakely. So he laid the foundations. That site is 230 years old, I think, right? So, and it evolved over time to become ICI and AstraZeneca. My grandfather, so my great-grandfather's son, he was a foreman there, right? So he was organizing people. My dad then worked there for 45 years as an instrument artificer, basically keeping the plant running. All right. And then I became a research scientist, helping to design cancer drugs. So this company's evolved over a long, long time to become AstraZeneca. My entire family have been part of it. And it was a real special relationship. We'd all been really well looked after by the company. And you've already heard about my passion for creating medicines for patients. So why did I leave AstraZeneca to set up the company? You know, we have touched on it previously, but it is relevant here. The reality is that a single researcher, right, a single researcher such as myself or Martin, there's only so much impact. Look at that failure rate. Remember that failure rate, 85%. So there's only so much impact we could have made in one lifetime.
Correct.
But with iTraX, the scale of what you can achieve is far, far greater. And we've created something that improves efficiency across thousands of scientists, right? We're giving them back time to focus on research. And that benefit multiplied across the industry, that far outweighs anything we could have done as individual researchers. So the vision, coming back to your question, what the vision for the next 5 years is simple, right? I want iTraX to be the backbone of R&D.
Yeah.
I want it to become the operating system of the entire pharmaceutical industry. Right, the digital glue that holds everything together. Right, if we're going to save lives, which is where you started this podcast, right, that's the context that you put it in. If we're going to help save lives, we need let us help the scientists do their jobs, right, not hinder them. So, in that same visit, I said to the guy who's a director, senior director, I said, right, look, you're wearing your company badge, right? AstraZeneca. You're wearing your AstraZeneca badge. He wasn't, but you know. And I'm wearing my Elixir badge, right? So I said, you asked me that question. Let's take those badges off for a moment, right? And we both did. And I said, right, now we're just people, aren't we? Right? You're not AstraZeneca. I'm not Elixir. We're humans. And we've both got loved ones. We've got our own health to think about. And one day it might be us or someone close to us, right, who needs these medicines. So that's why we have to get those medicines discovered quicker and to patients faster. And that is why iTraX exists. And that's where I want it to be.
I think it's a very noble vision to have, Paul. It's really amazing to know because the way you will save the time, save the money, and bring the efficiency, I think the drugs will get faster to the market. And I think I'm sure you will achieve this vision. All the best wishes for that, Paul.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, Paul, let's jump into a few lessons because you being to tech, you were part of pharma companies. You told a story about AstraZeneca from ICI, almost 250-year-old stories, and your family is all about ICI AstraZeneca, and you are also now contributing to that. So I really wanted to know because you being an employee scientist to now entrepreneur and owning your own company. So what leadership lesson have you learned along the way that you would like to share here?
Yeah, lots. It's the answer. But no, it's an interesting one, this. So for me, leadership is about having a vision.
Yeah.
All right. That others want to follow. Right. So very important. to get that right. I was actually at an event held at a high school with quite high-profile people, business leaders, sports people who played for England in cricket, and they were on the stage and they were being interviewed by the headmistress, and it was all about leadership. And they said, headmistress said, "So, how would you define leadership?" And they all had different stories from the different fields, and they shared their own perspectives. But for me, it's very simple, right? So leadership is simply not about dictating. Right? It's very important to get that right when you run business. It's about guiding. Okay, so the simplest definition, if I'd have been asked that question, was a leader has followers, all right? Whilst a dictator has people who reluctantly comply. So if you want to be a leader, the lesson I've learned is what I want to do as a leader, and every other leader wants to achieve, is to get to their goal and achieve their vision as quickly as possible. And in the context of what we discussed today, that is the goal of what I want my company to achieve, because of the benefits it's going to bring us all. Okay. So think of the analogy of running a business. Think of it as a journey. Okay. I need to get from A to B, wherever that is in your country, wherever that is, on a long journey. All right.
Correct.
So it's a long journey, and we might sit there and make a plan. Okay.
Yeah.
And say, right, this is the shortest route. Okay. But in reality, to continue the analogy, right, you're going to hit traffic jams, you're going to hit roadblocks, you're going to need to reroute, you're going to need to adapt, and you need to stay agile. So the original plan might change, but the destination remains the same. You still need to focus on getting to B, but your original plan that everybody's bought into may change. So, shortcuts are rarely the answer. So when you're starting a business, you have to be flexible, even if it means taking a different path from the one you first imagined. But as long as you hold on to that vision and make your team feel valued and explain very, very clearly why you are adapting, right? Rather than telling them, explain why you're adapting, what problems it will solve, what benefits it will bring. People come with you.
Correct.
Okay? They follow you. So in the end, what I've learned, it's about staying true to that destination whilst being open to the twists and turns of the journey, but knowing that there are some people who are fixated on the original plan, and you have to coax them into why we're changing the plan. So that's the biggest leadership lesson I learned.
I think very, very well said. Very well said, Paul. I think being flexible and keeping your eye on your final goal, so much important. You will have so many hurdles in between, but when you have a vision at your goal, I think I'm sure you will able to achieve it. And that's very well said. Yeah,
You have to keep it in mind. You do have to
absolutely.
question, is that the destination we need to go to?
I
You
agree.
have to validate that on a regular basis.
I
But
agree.
if you believe in it, you'll get there.
I agree. And I think that's why I love the vision of iTraX, what you shared. Yeah.
Thank you.
Making this world not just a better place to live, but better place to live healthy. Yeah.
Correct.
So that is wonderful. So Paul, I think I can continue with these questions like anything, but
So can I.
somehow we have a time limitations. But as a pharma now's leader, I think they always seek leadership mantras, right? So, for pharma leaders who are listening to this podcast, help me with one key takeaway you would like you would like them to remember.
Yeah, good question. Well, I think if there's one message I want to leave with pharma leaders, it's this. Your science deserves better tools. All right.
Bro.
It deserves it. You can't run 21st century research on 20th century systems. Okay. So with iTraX, we're giving scientists back the most valuable currency they have, as we've discussed, their time to focus on experiments, right? Time to make discoveries, time to bring medicines to market faster, all of which ultimately benefit the patient. So my call to anyone listening to this, if you're still listening to it, is simple. Don't let outdated systems hold your teams back, right? Invest in giving the scientists the environment that they deserve. Because
True.
one day it might be you or someone you love who is waiting for those discoveries.
That's very amazing and very touching, I will say. So I
Thank
think
you.
beautifully said, Dr. Paul. So thanks a lot for joining us. Thank you for your amazing, amazing insights. It's great to know about your vision, your leadership role, your leadership mantra, and I think amazing key takeaway. Yeah. So Paul, once
Thank you.
again, thanks a lot for your time. And I really enjoyed this, and I'm sure our audience will certainly enjoy this.
Yeah, I enjoyed it very much as well. No, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Perfect, Paul.